راه نشانم بده، در شب ظلمانیم ماه نشانم بده. ای که مرا خوانده ای راه نشانم بده، در شب ظلمانیم ماه نشانم بده. یوسف مصری ز چاه گشت چنان پادشاه، گر که طریق این بود چاه نشانم بده. یوسف مصری ز چاه گشت چنان پادشاه، گر که طریق این بود چاه نشانم بده. راه نشانم بده، چاه نشانم بده. ای که مرا خوانده ای راه نشانم بده.
Whoever has had a longing cast into his heart, know for certain, for that very end was he created. So whether he hastens well or hastens ill, still he stands in need of one to drive him on. This heaven itself became a swift steed through its driving, that it might reveal the path to every seeker's attainment. Take heed, if longing is yours. Be not heedless. Know this longing as God's grace. Let it never grow slack. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Greetings and reverence be upon the seekers who search after the path of truth and reality, the devotees enraptured by spiritual wayfaring. This insignificant one, in the years 1993 to 1995 CE, held sessions in Tehran for teaching the theoretical and practical gnosis of spiritual wayfaring to the seekers of the path of truth and reality. Thus, in the year 1994 and the middle of 1995 CE, when these sessions expanded and every Thursday for nearly 2 hours, a gathering of spiritual sisters and brothers, seekers and wayfarers of the path, attended these sessions, it was accordingly resolved that those who stand upon this spiritual and intellectual horizon, and whom the Lord of the world and of the exalted, unseen divine realms was summoning unto himself, should be made aware of the holding of these sessions. For this reason, on one of the pages of the book, The Call of the Mind from Beyond the Law of Attraction, the work of the late wise peer, my own master Nur al-Din Chahardehi, who in those days was still among the living of this world, a notice was placed under the following heading: that the seekers of the path of truth and reality may correspond with the guide of the school of individual Sufism, in the hope that they might be accepted, till one learns whom the beloved shall choose and toward whom his inclination shall be. Tehran, P.O. Box 19395-6464. Masoud, Reza, Modaressi, Chahardehi. And these notices, placed in the last several hundred copies remaining from the stock of the first printing of the aforementioned book, which had been published in a print run of 6,600 copies, gradually came into the hands of that book's readers. Among them, ardent seekers of the path and devotees, enraptured by spiritual wayfaring, from every quarter and corner, wrote letters and expressed their request. Among them were pure talents and radiant shining stars. Yet I, this least of servants, was not granted the good fortune that they should receive the teachings of spiritual wayfaring and the theoretical and practical instruction through me. for those sessions did not long endure, coming to an end in the year 1995 CE, whereupon this humble one set out for the city of Lahore in the land of Pakistan. And so, how many dear ones there were, most fit to tread the path of truth and reality, of spiritual wayfaring, of individual Sufism, bearing burning longings in their breasts, such that in this dark clod of earth, this earthly world, had they found the right way, they might have kindled flames and bestowed upon the frozen coldness of the ages a warmth and heat both loving and Gnostic, and 1,000 regrets that I was deprived of the honor of raising my head to the heavens and taking pride that I had borne upon my shoulders the charge of teaching and nurturing such brilliant, radiant stars as would cast their light upon the spiritual firmament of humankind, upon the perfection of the human being. How well does the wise peer, the sage, Abbas Keyvan Qazvini, write that Jacob attained the path to human perfection precisely because he was the beloved of Joseph. And this is one of the ways of arriving at human perfection and the spiritual development of man. Would that I were, at that time, entrusted with the instruction and teaching of such fortunate ones who, having attained the recognition of themselves and of their God, had brought the path to its completion. The letters of the sisters and brothers who sought spiritual wayfaring and individual Sufism are so warming to one's being that, were those letters to be read and their pains and burning anguish recounted, it would seem as though the guide of the path possessed a heart of stone, unreceptive to such seekers, not even setting down a reply to their written letters, whereas this was not so. Rather, for a certain span of time, the letters that arrived for this purpose were not even opened, nor were they read. Those letters were preserved one by one, with the utmost respect and care. And now that many long years have passed since those days, I have come to entreat you, dear ones, most imploringly for pardon, forgiveness, and indulgence, and, clinging to the hem of your loving compassion, to beg with the whole of my being that you, first of all, pardon me and forgive me. Furthermore, may it never be, since seeking is but the first stage among the stages of traversing the path, that any free wayfarer, you seekers of that era, who have been called wayfarers of the path, should think ill of yourselves. And I direct your attention to this important point. May it never be that capable, worthy ones, into whose hearts and souls the Lord of the world and the kingdom of God had cast longing and desire for the path of truth and reality, for traversing the path in spiritual wayfaring, and whom he had summoned, should suppose themselves unworthy of this path, lacking aptitude for spiritual wayfaring, especially those into whose hearts other orders had found no entry, and who held only the path of individual Sufism and discipleship in the school of the wise Pir Nur al-Din Chahardehi to be the shortest way, without intermediary, to attaining human perfection, which indeed is the truth. And because the teachings of our wise peer were being presented by this insignificant one in the aforementioned sessions, and as has been said, the sessions did not continue, I was deprived of serving and accompanying you, free and noble men and women, in your wayfaring. And how much of you seekers of the path had been entrusted with an extraordinarily pure aptitude for journeying and wayfaring within your being, such that if one or several of those seekers, having expressed their request and taken up the writing of a letter, should suppose that this mistaken assumption stands as an obstacle to their setting foot upon the path of finding the way to human perfection and to setting foot upon the course of their own spiritual wayfaring, let them dash such a notion against the wall as mere illusion, and, while time yet remains, set their foot upon the path and traverse the stages of wayfaring, that they may attain success in the knowledge of themselves and of their God. Let it not go unsaid that, although our emphasis here has been upon those persons who, upon encountering the book, The Call of the Mind, from beyond the law of attraction, and beholding that notice which summoned the seekers of spiritual wayfaring and individual Sufism to express their request, responded accordingly. Yet the seeking of pardon and the asking for release from this insignificant one is not confined to these precious ones alone. Rather, over the course of the past years, it extends to those who made their requests through the Razdar website, and those through the Irani Ain website, and those through other means in person, expressing their request orally, whether seekers in Iran, Pakistan, India, Nepal, or those of other nationalities beyond those named, who have been counted among the seekers of the path of truth and reality, of spiritual wayfaring, of individual Sufism, and in whose hearts and souls the longing for the path and for traversing the way unto God blazed forth and cast its radiance. And likewise, those who came to India from the western lands of the European countries, whether Muslims or those who followed another faith, being, for instance, Christians, and those whose expression of request was not put into speech or utterance, nor did they take up the writing of any letter, but rather rendered various forms of service, hoping in their hearts that they might be accepted and that they might set foot upon the path unto spiritual wayfaring. And even those dear ones who were renunciants of the world of the Hindu faith, who belonged to the ranks of ascetic wayfarers, or who were among the elders of an order, and bore the charge and administration of a temple, whom the lightning flash of divine attraction stirred into tumult, causing them to forsake temple and shrine, to abandon their own seekers and disciples, and to set out in search of the guide of the school of individual Sufism, expressing their request. And likewise, aspirants, European, American, Asian, French, Spanish, and Catalan, believers in the monotheistic religions, and those ardent, capable seekers of the path who followed no particular faith or religion. Upon each and every one of you, dear ones, precious jewels, do I offer greetings, and I entreat, most imploringly, that you release me from my debt and forgive me, and know that the non-acceptance by this insignificant one is by no means proof of any lack of aptitude in you seekers for spiritual wayfaring. So may you never suppose such a thing of yourselves, nor say to yourselves, "This is the only path possessing spiritual authenticity that has settled upon my heart and impelled me to express my request and declare my longing for traversing the way." And now, since no step has been taken upon the path, I therefore have no share in that luminous, exalted, divine station in the life-giving, divine majesty, and I have no way to it, never is this so. Rather, know that I take pride in the sincere requests kindled from your pure hearts, which have been and remain a mark of honor. And I am ashamed that in every instance, some matter stood as an obstacle, preventing me from sitting down to teach you seekers of wayfaring unto God, and to accompany you. Now I hold the hope that, through your forgiveness, a wave of grace may rise up and honor this poor one, wholly at fault, with divine mercy and pardon. For if the ocean of divine grace should rise up in a wave of favor, what wonder if it should engulf the unworthy multitudes and mingle them together with the worthy? For if the sole foundation and basis of grace were merit alone, no essence, whether of matter or of spirit, would ever have come into being. If the light of love should leap upon a heart, and this huma, rarer even than the anka, should alight upon a head, that very light shall guide it. There is then no further need of sheikh or novice. O sheikh, go and learn the matter of love, though this is a matter that cannot be taught. The Fakir, Masoud Reza Modaressi Chahardehi, Guide of the School of Individual Sufism.